myself together here. This is the September 17th, the October 13th Technology Committee for the Beaufort County School Board. We are 4 p.m. both hybrid, live in person and online. We have no public comments. This is being live streamed on YouTube. And so let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you guys will join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's see, Ms. Frazier, we need an approval of the agenda. Mr. Ney is a few minutes late.
Okay. I motion the approval of the agenda.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. I have been notified that we have no public comments, so we now need a motion to approve the September 17th committee meeting minutes.
Okay. I make a motion for the approval of September 17, 2025 committee meeting minutes.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Another unanimous motion. We're killing it. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll start with the survey.
You want the survey or do you want to do the student laptop repair ticket?
Yeah, let's do the September repairs. I'm sorry, I missed that. That'll be good because that'll give Mr. Ney a chance to catch up. So go ahead, Mr. Chauhan.
So once again, we pulled all the student data for the month of September. Once again, I'm still kind of tinkering with the the presentation of these reports. Because we have so many elementary schools, I split elementary into north and south, so you could still have a good graph on one sheet. That was a little bit easier to read. Still willing to take back any feedback you have if want any adjustments on these reports or a different layout.
What is ARSL and ARRA?
Those are academy schools, River Ridge Academy and Robert Smalls Leadership Academy.
Okay. Gotcha. Does anyone have any questions?
Online you have.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Ms. Frazier?
No questions.
Any other board members? I don't have any questions either. I think it's just good to look for trends. Again, I still want to throw out my often repeated comment that I think having the 2-in-1 could potentially create more laptop cracks, but that's just me. But it's good to have this information and kind of give a sense of where we are. But you can see the laptop screen crack is clearly the biggest issue that we face. And I don't know if that's what you would expect. As far as I'm sure a lot of these get dropped off the edge of a desk, type of thing. But I do feel like that 2-in-1 with the hinge thing leads to more cracking. And that I don't really have any.
The improper carrying of the device, not keeping it in their bag when they're moving around, is usually when we look at the reports the kids give us when they turn it in for repair. Usually they were walking around with it, not secured in their laptop bag, or just placed in their book bag and not in their laptop case inside their book bag.
I know one thing that has come up just from having students in school is the charging issue, and having trying to charge it in class and then someone tripping on the charging cord or knocking it off. As we look at like we're rebuilding Hilton Head High, are we looking at putting charging in where it's not on the side of the rooms?
Unfortunately, because of having to go through cement floors, we have a lot of problems with putting electrical outlets in floors because of the waxing we do. Unfortunately, after a couple of years, that wax buildup gets in those connections, and it usually causes them to start flaking out.
Okay.
And we've seen that a lot. So we've tried to refrain as much as possible from embedding it in the floors and in the concrete where we have the VCT engineered tiles.
What about like rails and that sort of thing? I know there's a technical term for it, where basically you have something out of the wall, but it goes like into the furniture.
We have used that in some of our labs. It's kind of hard, the way most of our classrooms are designed to be a little bit flexible, to get those in. We haven't had very much luck. What we are still trying to do is leave some type of, I know you don't like it, but charging station on the side, because that's where there's usually some piece of furniture on the side of a classroom, that they can have a charging area. We have looked also at some little charge adapters for possibly media centers and different classrooms. But once again, it gets very pricey very quick,
Yeah.
because even the little 6 charging stations run about $500. And when you multiply that over almost 1,800 classroom areas, it adds up really fast.
Yeah, it's not so much I'm against it. I just think that, I think the laptop becomes an essential piece of equipment, having it, where you can charge at your desk at some point. There'll be some sort of, they'll turn the whole desktop into like the standing desks that have the charger, the wireless charger built right in or something. I think eventually we'll get there. But
Another thing we're going to start piloting is basically it's like a 6 to 8 battery port. So the little battery chargers for like your phones and stuff like that, they now
Yeah.
make them for laptops. So that way, if a student did run out of charge, they could be handed one of these chargers, plug it in right there at their desk, continue to work while it does charge. And
Oh,
those
like a power
chargers,
bank.
yeah, power bank, excuse me, couldn't think of the word for it, power bank. And generally we can usually get 1 to 2, 2 to 2.5 charges of a laptop, like 5 charges of a phone, but hopefully they're not pulling out their phones inside a class during the school day.
That would be forbidden.
That's another thing we're looking at. I think it would also be great for when we have a lot of our testing windows.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we have to prep spares. That way, if the kid doesn't have one, we can set up a spare station, but it'd be a lot easier for that child to stay on their own device and just hand them a power bank.
Yeah, that sounds
So
awesome.
it's something we're starting to test out. We just got a few in to see how it goes. We'll try a couple of pilots and then possibly look at going to something more district-wide in a year or so.
Okay, great. I love that.
Leah
Plus, I love a good pilot.
Leah says, Leah's in chat, she says, charge them at night and they may last all day.
Yes, that is the goal. But like with a lot of middle school students. But I agree. And that is, I do think that is technically is that in our AUP or policy to say bring the?
It is that they should charge their laptops at night to have them ready for the school day. It is in the AUP.
Yep, there you go. Okay, so on to the surveys, and just as a preamble, Mr. Shohan combined the student and the staff, not the student, the teacher and the staff survey. So we're looking at 4 different surveys, if everyone had a chance to look at them. And we had talked about how we could set these up. And we're going to try, at least these surveys, if the committee's on board, is going to try a little bit different approach, which is rather than sort of on a scale of 1 to 10 or, strongly agree, strongly disagree, that type of survey that is more traditional, to use more of a free text survey. And then kind of capture, I think Mr. Shohan did an excellent job of sort of capturing just a couple of key areas for each of the different targeted groups, to kind of get their thoughts on where we're going, where we're at now, et cetera. So, Mr. Shohan, do you want to talk about that at all?
I tried to vary the questions just a little bit. You may see some of the questions repeat, especially for like community impact. We try to get a feel from our parents and community members who might see our students working on their devices in the afternoon, how much they're actually using it and what their feelings are, because you hear a lot of stuff on Facebook and in the community. A lot of people love that the kids have it. Some people complain about screen time. So I tried to pick questions that would kind of fit everybody's need, and so everybody could have their voice in this discussion.
And Robin, will you let me know if you see anyone's hands up? Are there any comments at this point from anybody? What I'd like to do is just get a real quick.
Colonel,
oh, sorry.
Colonel Guard, Colonel
Yeah, go
Guard
ahead.
has a comment.
Have you thought about on your kids' survey about student survey about the possibility of having all your texts, instead of having textbook, you'd have it all downloaded on your laptop, so you wouldn't have textbooks?
Now, most of our classes already come with their textbooks digitalized because we're not even issuing a lot of our textbooks. But when we buy textbooks, we have to buy a hard copy and we get the digital copy. So we give out the digital copies. So the kids have these digital copies on their devices. The teachers provide those at the beginning of their class schedule.
Seemed to be a good question. I'm talking dollars and cents here.
Mhm.
That to the kids, how often do you use the hard paper versus what you read on your computer? Because my experience with my two grandsons, they don't even open those books.
Right.
They get it all off the computer. We could save a hell of a lot of money if we would just have to move electrons around and store them rather than books and shipping and storage and repair and all that kind of stuff. So a question about how they would respond to that seemed to be kind of useful.
That is interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've gotten rid of lockers, right? Because they're not
Oh,
carrying
yeah.
around.
Almost all of our schools have done away with their locker system.
You know what might be an interesting question too, along those same lines, because I think there is a really interesting debate in the technology space about learning on paper, right? Because it does trigger, they've done MRIs, it triggers different parts of your brain to write something down pen to paper versus read it on a screen. And there is some thought that a similar thing occurs with reading, a physical, tactile copy. So it might be interesting to capture that too, to just say like, do you prefer paper, something along those lines, to see how they're feeling about if they would prefer it all to be digital, or if they think there are some use cases for paper where that, I would think in some class environments, paper might be preferable. But you're right. I mean, I think the days of these giant thick textbooks that you cart around and keep in a locker are well behind us. Let's.
In the Army, we used to give out stacks of field manuals and technical manuals that high to my students. And now you get a laptop and we don't even bother with it anymore because people get used to it. And especially the younger people, the older folks, they still want to have paper. But now in mathematics and science, where there's some kinesthetic drawings of things, it may be, still need some paper to do that. But social studies and English, where you don't have that kinesthetic piece, that might be something. So, but if you can get some kind of a feedback on that, I think the survey would be very valuable.
Because I think that's
Yeah,
true.
I don't.
Go ahead, Mr. John.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know how a lot of these kids do it. I mean, just my kids, my youngest daughter will have on headphones listening to music while she's studying and reading, and apparently retains the knowledge. Now, me, I like it peace and quiet and just concentrating on one thing. So I guess it's kind of a preference.
I find a lot of younger people like the lo-fi music, the sort of ASMR type stuff that's become really popular now. It's not exactly music, but supposedly it helps you focus. There's a lot of interesting, I mean, these are good future topics too, in terms of just philosophically. Yeah, so I think the other thing too is my kids they did a lot of their own sort of investigation of issues with YouTube videos. my daughter turned me on to as a documentary filmmaker. He does like things in history, and the way he did it was amazing. I mean, just really, you know, and so I think a lot of kids are learning with videos. I don't think it's just, I think that's one of the big distinctions is we need to convince people, in my opinion, that technology is not just digitizing the textbook, right? It's not just putting the textbook and the questions onto a computer, that it's a whole different way of interacting with the world, whether it's virtual reality or, you know, documentary videos, or even now, you know, you can make your own videos, right? Pretty easily. So interesting questions. Let's go through just quickly, take a look at each survey because there's 4 or 5 questions, and see if anyone has any feedback individually, if that's okay. And let's start with the community survey, which is the top of the one for mine. So the 5 key areas are community impact, which I think is huge, equity and access. I think one thing that I noticed about this is we need to define one-to-one program. I don't think everyone's going to know what that means. So we need a little caveat or to give a little more description. Then we've got community value, AI in the classroom, and future skills. So I'd love to hear feedback from the committee and then other board members on these 5 questions. Ms. Fraser, I can't see everybody on my computer, so I'm not sure if your hands are up.
No hands are up, but Ms. Frey, and Victor is on as well. So your committee people are here.
Fantastic. So Ms. Fraser, did you have any thoughts on the community survey?
No, I do agree that they need to know exactly what the one-to-one is. And maybe what type of AI is available in the classroom. Because some of these are pretty open-ended, but they are for adults, correct?
Yeah, they're for community members.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Letting them know about the one-to-one program.
Yeah, and I agree. So, you know, the AI technology, it's very vague, and the question is, do we leave it vague or give it a little more, flesh it out a little bit more?
I didn't want to try to lead them because some person might have used ChatGPT or Gronk or Gemini. Just basically trying to get a feel for what their access to it has been.
Mr. Ney? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Fraser.
I see a lot of yeses and no feedback for that AI in the classroom. They're probably gonna be like, just yes.
That's a good possibility there.
And that wouldn't even bother me if we got a strong, do you believe that they should, and the answer is yes, then I think that gives us some strategic definition. Like, is this hype or is this something that everyone's, you know, truly thinks is important? So I'm okay with just a yes, but I would hope that, and we should maybe say, you know, please
If
put a couple
so,
sentences. Yeah.
Yeah, if so, why? Yeah.
Yeah, if so, why? That's great. Why or why not kind of answer. Yep.
I think for community value, would it be worth getting a little bit more specific with what do you think would be marketable skills or necessary technology skills or literacy that would propel, entry-level workforce, or what do you consider like necessary skills for higher positions?
Yeah, how would you put that? Do you have any ideas? Because I agree. I just don't know how you'd say it.
That's a good question. I mean, I play drums for a living.
Thank you for your feedback.
Well, I mean, I guess I could just put in what marketable skills do you believe would be most important for students instead of just what skills.
Yeah, true.
Because that might trigger something for the community member.
I like that.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I think that what this thing is driving to, and I think a lot of people that take the time to fill this out from the community are going to be interested and have a vested interested, or, sorry, I'm misspeaking here, but are going to want to have something to say about this. And so I think the concept of community value is really important. And so I think if you can kind of just drive it home, like Mr. Ney said, that would be helpful. Other board members. I can't see anyone's hands. Oh,
Yeah,
Mr. Gordon.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
Pastor Gordon, I'm agreeing with everybody else. I just think that going to the community, it just need to be just a little more detailed. on the questioning. I agree with everybody, what everybody's saying though.
I do love, did you guys just get the AI disclaimer pop up on your Zoom? I don't know
Yes.
if they're listening or if it was just really good timing. So
Wow.
I heard someone else.
You have Ms. Hay on and you have Dr. Carr on as well as Ms. Gordon.
Full house tonight.
And no one has hands up.
Okay.
I just
think
got in on the conversation, so I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good for now.
So I think the community impact, one thing is the community impact and the community value are sort of asking the same question, but from different perspectives, right? Because one is talking about preparing students. So yeah, I kind of think those two could either be combined, or one is going to say the value to the impact to the community is it to prepare the kids for the modern workforce. And so I don't know if I'd call that community impact, because what you really want is this where you hope your business leaders would come in and say, this is essential, this is overhyped, kids have too much technology, they won't get off their phones, kids need to know more technology to be able to contribute. So I think that first one, I like the question a lot. I just don't know if I'd call it community impact, because then it just kind of drift into community value. So I think maybe just call it workforce readiness.
Colonel Gar has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Colonel Guy.
I would think that we should take this particular page, this community survey, and get it out to the Chamber of Commerce. And encourage the Chamber of Commerce to go to their membership and have it filled out. It might be a better way to make sure we get it propagated through the business community. And I'm sure they would be very amenable to doing that for us.
I think that'd be fantastic. I think that's the perfect avenue. All right, so I don't want to spend tons of time because there's some other stuff. Let's look at the parent survey and see if there's any feedback from the committee. Ms. Frazier, do you have any feedback on the parent survey?
And I'll go ahead and add that whatever we decided on community for our one-to-one, I will update those on all the different surveys.
Yeah, because if you look at the parent, you do have workforce readiness and community impact, which I think is
Yes.
very similar with community value. So I love the fact that they kind of line up, but maybe we could sort of line them up even a little more.
I like the questions here. I still think the open-ended needs to say yes, why not?
What we could do is just as a preamble, say, please respond. And if, with why, or, we could say, please elaborate.
Yeah.
Because I think one thing is they don't need to necessarily answer every question. Like I could see someone coming in saying, I really can speak to future skills and equity and access, but I don't know anything about A in the classroom. So I don't feel like they have to answer everything. But then I would hope, like Ms. Frazier said, if they do answer, that they give us some meat on the bone. Mr. Nate?
For community impact, do you think it's worth maybe? I'd be interested to know from the parents, who obviously know their children the best, what they believe positive or negative technology is having on their kids' education. As opposed to, do you think it contributes preparing students for college? Maybe it does, but I mean, I would like to know a little bit more. Do they believe that screen time is beneficial or negative? Is it a positive effect or is it having negative effects? I mean, we've heard anecdotally SICs, but being able to hear from individual parents what they believe the impact of technology is having on their kids, I hope it's positive. But I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some negative comments in there too, which are just as important.
I think that's awesome because, we've got workforce readiness, right? So that kind of in the community survey and the parent survey, I think that's a really important concept. Then you've got either, call it community impact or community value. For parents, I agree. I think it'd be fascinating to give them a forum to say too much, too much screen time. They need, we need to go back to basics. Kids need a chalkboard. I mean, there are some people who think we should go back to chalkboards and, that kind of thing, and give them an opportunity to talk about that. And that would be perfect also for Miss Fraser's why or why not, like defend your position a little bit, or at
Agreed.
least extend. So that would make the topics then, the top 3 topics for both these surveys and be workforce readiness, 4 actually, workforce readiness, AI, future skills, which I think is super important, equity and access, and then community value / impact, and then AI in the classroom. So those 5 then would line up really nicely.
Ms.
Agreed.
Hayes' hand is up.
Ms. Hay, thank you, Robin.
You're
Ms. Hay?
muted, Ms. Hayes.
Sorry about that. I was just saying I would expand on what everyone else has suggested by also asking very specific questions if we end up prompting parents for their input, because some parents don't necessarily realize the correlation between the technology and the impact on their child. For example, asking a question such as, when your child's been sitting on their device at home to complete their homework, are they agitated afterwards? Do they seem less social? It needs to be specific questions, because a lot of parents, I say a lot, but parents fall in 2 camps typically. Some are very in tune with their kids and how they're learning and how technology is impacting them. And others are just grateful to shove a device in front of their child's face and have them, quote unquote, entertained for hours doing their homework, because then it's interaction and time that the parent isn't having. It's essentially technology babysitting. The parent's not having to interact or guide their child at all if they're sitting on a screen, but they're not necessarily correlating, hey, my kid has behavioral issues when they get off the technology that they perhaps, some of them, have been on all day. So I think asking very pointed questions like about agitation, antisocial behavior, things like that, that statistically tie right back to an overload on all of our systems in terms of tech. It's also, I don't know long term if there's a way for us to sort of customize classroom material or homework for the kids that, for example, my husband and I are polar opposites. He is great to sit down and do everything virtually. He will take notes online. He shares them with everyone, all of that. He's the one listening to music and working at the same time. I am more like Mr. Shohan, and I need silence, and I want to physically write. I also don't learn the same from reading unless I'm holding the material myself and can physically underline it. It doesn't hit the same for me. I don't absorb the information the same as when I'm just reading something quickly on the internet or on a, online article, and then it's gone. So I would just encourage all of us to dig a little deeper into all of those things and see how we can really, like I said, I don't know if there's a way to curate so that it's, I don't know, more personalized to each child's needs or their method of learning. So that's all. Thank you.
I think it'd be interesting if we did something on community impact, or, however you want to phrase it, community value, and say, do you think that technology, is a positive or a negative? And then say, why or why not, and give some specific examples. At this point, I think we're getting a pretty high level look at it, but I'm hoping that we will also collect their email addresses. And if they bring up things that we could at some point follow up, and get more specific information. This tool hopefully is going to give us a really high level view to start thinking strategically about where the district could go in terms of budget and in terms of equipment, or just sort of a strategy for technology. But I would like if we could put in there why or why not, and if possible, please provide specific examples that may give us some more specific insight. Because I agree, I think one of the big debates is people don't really understand what technology is, because it absolutely personalized tutoring already exists, and my son's doing it in college. Like it's, for his chemistry class. You put the questions in, it learns your learning style, it makes it relevant to you, and it kind of adjusts as you go along. So it certainly is coming, but you don't. What I think that it's trying to get a sense for me in a lot of this is, how are people reacting to the word technology? What is their concept of that? Does that mean, digital babysitting, or does that mean, building new software and going to Mars? Like there's a huge spectrum of what that means. Anyone else have their hands up? I can only see like 4 people at a time.
No,
Mr. Carr?
no one else has.
Okay. All right. The next one on the list is the staff survey, which will go to teachers and administrators. And I love these questions. I think that combining it was fine. Ms. Frazier, what were your thoughts? I'm not an educator, so I'm a tech person, so I think it's all good. Okay, Mr. Nay?
The only thing I was, Miss Hay brought up a good point about personalized or specialized or individual engagement, I guess. How much of a challenge would it be? I know there's some program challenges there, but how much of a challenge would it be for a teacher to have, say, a split class? Half the class prefers paper, half the class prefers digital. Is there a way to capture that in a question, other than making program challenges, a 2-part question, or a student engagement, maybe alter the student engagement question? Would it be beneficial for your class to have, 2 types of learners? I mean, we know you got visible, physical learners, that kind of stuff. But what about digital versus paper learners, so to speak? I think it might be worthwhile trying to figure out a way to find that out, because I have a feeling some teachers are going to be, no, it's one or the other, all or none kind of thing. But it might be worth asking the students that in the survey also, if they prefer paper or digital. I mean, I think Miss Hay kind of opened up a rabbit hole there. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Well, it's an important rabbit hole, because I think it's very crucial to the debate. But I think what would be interesting is, now, one of the things is since we're not doing a strongly agree, strongly disagree, or on a scale of 1 to 10 type question, it'll be interesting to see how we parse out the responses to this. But if we get a 50-50 split on people saying technology is the future, we must do it, and then the other half going, technology has been a disaster, it's caused behavioral and discipline issues, and I think we'll get a mix of both. And we'll probably get people that saying, well, there are pros and cons to technology. There, just like Ms. Hay was saying, different things. So if we can parse that out, I think what personally I'm looking for, and I'm open to feedback on this, but from my point of view, is looking at where are people in a very big sense with this survey, so that we can start directing some strategic district strategy towards how we'll respond to technology. So if we get, for example, a 50-50 split of parents who are pro technology and parents who hate it, for example, what does that mean strategically for the district, right? How are you going to accommodate the 50% of people who think that you must do technology in order to prepare kids for the world, right? And the 50% who thinks it's destroying their childhood? Like, what do you do with that information? I think that's a big challenge. So then the next step is where I think we come in, potentially reaching out to some of these parents for more feedback and say, what does this look like? What are the tools that we have? Can we accommodate both points of view? So it's both a risk when you do a survey like this, because if you get half of people that are super, more technology please, and half the people that are like, stop it and go back, how do you handle that? Because I suspect we're probably, I don't know what the percentage would be, but I don't think it's going to be strongly one way or the other. I think we're going to see both both types of parents coming out and saying more or less. So in my opinion, I would say let's leave it with sort of a free text, get sort of a map of what's going on, and then start digging into these individual results, potentially having more discussion with SICs, more surveys, or even forming some sort of a health advisory council of parents, but for technology, and start thinking, how do we meet everyone's different needs? Because the technology, say that word like 50 times in a minute, the technology certainly exists to divide classrooms up a little bit. So, but that's just my thoughts. Anyone else have any ideas?
Can I say,
Yeah.
for number one, since implementing, I mean, I taught for 13 years. In my first day teaching, we had devices in the classroom. So since implementing is really not a beneficial question because the teachers don't have a choice. The kids already have one-on-one unless you're saying, would you like to do away with one-on-one? So that first question is like, why even ask?
What do you think, Mr. Chauhan?
So would you like me to switch the first question with something with digital versus paper learning?
Sure. But
Okay.
even to operate a classroom, we really don't have a choice with that either. We definitely could never get away with paper and pencil just because, like Mrs. Hayes said, each student learns differently. So you're going to walk in a classroom and kids are going to have tablets, kids are going to have books, kids are going to have copies of something. It's really not even a question at this point whether you can have all or nothing.
So really, what we need to do is change that student engagement question to more of what are your thoughts about the, digital classroom. The thing that's interesting to me too is you're going to have people who have graduated from teaching school in the last 5-10 years who they've never been in a paper and pencil classroom. They've never been on a chalkboard. I remember when my kids were like in elementary school and it was a big deal for everyone to get the Promethean boards. And now it's like, can you imagine my guess is most elementary school kids can't fathom a chalkboard where you would have to like dust it off every day. That would be clap the erasers.
Yeah.
I think there's an age thing too. Some teachers probably fondly remember, the chalkboards and the glue sticks and all that, and other teachers just can't. They have no frame of reference for it. So I don't know if you can craft a different take on that question.
Okay.
Mr. Chauhan's having to be a wordsmith now.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
No problem.
The
We're
feedback's
looking for
fantastic.
answers. The
Well,
best way to
really,
get 'em.
this survey is gonna generate questions, not answers. Anyone else? Any other board members have any comments about this? Okay, and then the last one is students. And are we going to age restrict this to like middle school and up, or are we going to have, third graders?
I would probably recommend middle school and above, so 6 through 12. But it's up to y'all. We can.
And I'm
I
up for.
agree. 6 through 12.
Okay. Anybody disagree with that?
Not necessarily disagree. So the devices change. At least it used to be second grade had iPads, and then 3rd through 12 had the tablets.
Yeah.
Is that how it still is?
I think so.
No, currently K through 1 have iPads and 2nd through 12 have the laptops. And we had to go that route because of the state testing standards for 3rd grade requiring a writing piece on that 3rd grade assessment. And we wanted to make sure that we were at least giving the kids a year of getting the keyboarding and skills before having to write an essay.
Absolutely. Got you. So it just depends on who you want the information from, because the second graders will definitely give you a lot more feedback than the parents will.
Well, do we want to take just an informal vote on 6 to 12, or do we want to do it for everybody?
Honestly, it's really just what information we're looking for.
My concern with the younger kids is that the parents might be speaking on their behalf. You know what I mean? Just because I don't know how much of an opinion they're going to have on AI awareness in second grade.
So we can ask for the questionnaires, the surveys to be answered like during their homeroom periods where the teachers there, not the parents.
We could.
That was going to be my suggestion, is have the teacher put it
Right.
out for them at the beginning of the day. That way, hopefully they're fresh and ready to answer some questions. Because if we just email it to them, unfortunately, I don't think we'll get as much of a response as we're looking for.
Right. True.
Okay, well, I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Shohan. I think there's, input on that. You can decide what you think is most feasible for students. The other thing I wanted to talk about with this is what the back end of this is going to look like. What are we using to distribute? Are we using SurveyMonkey, JotForm? What are we using?
I can't think of the name of it right now. It's very similar to SurveyMonkey. It's our new survey tool with the district. But for the students, we'll probably have to use SurveyMonkey. But I will get with Canvas because they do a lot of surveys. So I know they went to a new product kind of away from SurveyMonkey, but it will probably be a mix. The students will probably get SurveyMonkey and the community members will get, I can't think of the name of it, the one that's going to go on our website.
How do we
But
track?
it's based,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, but how are we going to store the responses?
They're held in the survey mechanism, and it does make some correlations and stuff for you to kind of track answers. So I think we'll get some helpful data out of it.
Because what I'm hoping to do is take essentially the free text results and use AI, maybe in conjunction with whatever this survey tool has. Because I would love to take 150 PDFs and throw them into, a ChatGPT and say, oh, is there echo? And just see what the ChatGPT kind of determines as far as like patterns and insights, because that's really in a lot of ways what AI is supposed to be good at, right? You can take a huge chunk of MRIs of the brain and detect new disease processes. So I'm really curious if we can get essentially PDFs of all these surveys or a CSV with free text fields or something that we can just drop into. We can de-identify it, if we want to. I don't know if we need to because it's not really FERPA type stuff, but and just see like what were the trends, what percentage of parents had this response, that we can interrogate it in a lot of ways. So can we do that with this survey tool?
I'm pretty sure we can. There should be some kind of a raw data dump at the end that you'd be able to drop into AI.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's kind of all the feedback on the surveys, which I think you got plenty. But I think it's a really strong start, in my opinion, or a strong effort here, and just with a little bit of tweaking. Any other final comments on the surveys as far as the content?
Nope. Good place to start.
All right. So the goal is to get, if you want to send it back out to the committee or to the board as a whole, I'll present it at our next meeting and we'll have the board sign off on it. I'll probably have a motion to initiate this survey program. That will be the end of September, right? Colonel Geyer, next Tuesday?
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
And then once it's approved, we just need to get it set up
No,
so
it's
that,
October.
I'm sorry.
You mean our
I don't
next
know why.
board meeting?
Yeah.
Our next board meeting is October
21st.
21st.
Yeah.
I knew it was next Tuesday. I was just saying September because I cannot believe it's October.
That's
Probably-
next Tuesday. That's 2
'Cause we
weeks
just-
from that's 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
We just went over the September numbers, so you probably had September stuck in your brain.
Well, so that will be October 21st, right? Is that we said?
Yes.
So October 21st will, if we get it approved, then we'll just set it up for implementation. And then we need to get it out to the SICs for the parents, get it on the website, get it to teachers. And do you have help with that at the district level, Mr. Shohan?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
we have all the lists of all the SIC members, so we'll be able to get it to them, be able to get it out to the chamber or digital corridor, and those types.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll take the feedback. I will make changes to these 4 surveys and try to get them back to you by about Wednesday or Thursday. And that'll give us enough time to get it in front of, hopefully get it in front of the board next Tuesday.
The other thing, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this in this meeting, but I think so there needs to be a little bit of a preamble to these surveys. Here's what we're doing, like 1 paragraph type of thing. And maybe a definition of one-to-one device or whatever, just kind of, and I've got a little preamble that I can send you that I worked on sort of.
Okay.
What demographic information? So we want one submission per person, right? So
Yes.
traditionally that's name and email address. How dicey, and I feel like this is verging into dicey territory, but I come from a healthcare background. I would love to know that, if not exactly the age, but a little bit the age of the person filling it out, right? Just to get a sense of if there's discrepancy on ages, because clearly there are comfort levels with technology between your average high school student and your average retiree. And there are exceptions to both of those. There are very technophobic high schoolers, and they're very savvy retired folks. But as a general distribution, I think you're gonna see, and I'm fascinated. I think this is data that would actually be really, really useful. Could even be a cool research project to see, people's age. I want to know, like, where they live, like what cluster are they with? If they're a student, what school are they with? If they're a parent, what school do their kids attend? Just so you can see some variation in the data. I think that would be informative, but that may be dicey. So I'm kind of interested, Mr. Shohan, if you think that'd be dicey, or if other board members think that would make people uncomfortable.
Can you give age range? It's not necessarily, but just put them in a age range.
Yeah, we could do something like on your normal internet surveys, 18 to 29, 30 to 39, something like that.
Okay. Could we put
And
occupation?
as long as
I mean, be optional, not required.
Yeah.
Or do you think that'd be too much to do? Committee members?
I mean, we can put like a little under the preamble of what the survey is about. We could probably ask a few very generic demographic questions. So age, I don't think cluster would be too intrusive. Since we have 4 clusters in the district, I mean, it would narrow it down a little.
Yeah. I don't know. Community members wouldn't obviously be affiliated with the cluster. We could put zip code too, which is kind of clustery, right? I know Hilton Head is very clustery. Like if you're in the 2-6 or the 2-8, you're in Hilton Head pretty much. 09, 10. So we could just put zip code. I don't know. I don't want to intrude into people's lives, but I think it would really be informative. Leah, Victor, what are your reactions to trying to get as much demographic?
I don't think it's going to be that intrusive to ask grade or school. As long as we're not asking names or anything like that, or gender or whatever, race or none of that stuff. Just age and school. And I think that's good. I don't think a 6th grader is going to know what cluster they're in, or a 5th grader, or maybe even a 3rd grader. I don't think they care about their school cluster. They know what school they go to, but I don't know if they knew they would be able to make that a jump to school cluster. Like MC Riley, what school cluster does a 3rd grader think they belong to? Or whatever. Right. So I mean, I don't think it'd be too intrusive to just ask grade and school.
Well, my question will be, What's the point of putting the clusters on? Maybe I missed it.
Because okay, I'm sort of a data nerd, and to me, I think it would be interesting to see if there were trending in the responses based on age, based on location, based on like an occupation, like student, retired, if you work in tech. I think, one trend would be if you work in a technology field, you're going to have a different thought than if you work in hospitality, right? But I'm just nosy. But I do think that actually, like if you were doing a research project on technology perspectives in public education, and Beaufort County would be a county you would choose to do a research project like this in, because it's got a lot of diversity in a lot of different ways. It's got people that have lived here for generations, people that have just recently moved here. So it'd just be kind of interesting, because I do think you would see trends within age ranges, within different locations, within different, occupations, et cetera. But I don't want to intrude on people or make them feel like we're trying to pigeonhole them into certain categories.
I think the school is important because, especially for our schools that are Project Lead the Way, and they have app builder classes and they have robotics and that kind of stuff, that may skew a little bit of the technology responses from the students. So I think it might be important for that reason, if among the other reasons.
Okay, well, Mr. Chauhan, will you come up with a couple of like non-obtrusive sort of, and then I guess if we're not getting their name, which I'm fine with, because I really am not interested in people's names per se. The only thing is, how do we, I don't think people are going to go crazy and submit something. I think we're probably at low risk of someone hammering out this survey 20 times to try and skew the results.
So, go ahead.
Ms. Hayes' hand is up.
Oh, hey, Ms. Hay.
Hey there. I was just going to say or suggest a question like, what is the closest school to you? And then they select the closest school. Something like that isn't intrusive, because you're not asking them specifically where do you go to school, but that's more than likely where they're going to click on. If it's given in options, or I don't know if it's going to be options that are available for them to click, or if it's a fill in the blank. But that might be, wording like that. Just what's the closest school to your location or to your home?
Yeah. Yeah, to me, I'm high school centric, but because that's like at the core of each cluster. Although for reasons that befuddle me, Bluffton is still 45% of the students, one cluster. What high school kind of, is in your area. And I don't, if they don't know what high school, like if it's obviously students are going to know, what school they're affiliated. I think for the student survey, you should put school and grade, but then for the community survey, I was just wondering if it would be reasonable to say, zip code or what high school is nearest to you or something like that. If you have any ideas, Mr. Chauhan, let me know. And if you guys think that's too invasive.
We could probably do a drop down, and under occupation, keep it very generic and what industry you're in, hospitality, healthcare, technology, something like that. We keep it very generic, and it's less likely to upset anyone.
Be sure and put military in there, or retired military. I'm interested in that too, because that's another thing that Beaufort County has, is we have a big military community. We really are sort of a good community to get a sense of things from.
When I send these back out to you, I'll have examples of that laid out at the top above the questions. That way y'all can get an eye on it and give me your opinions on it.
Fantastic. And I'll send you the little preamble that I have. It's not perfect, but so you don't have to spend a bunch of time. ChatGPT helped me. Okay, that's awesome. Any other comments on the survey? Okay. And then we'll make sure that everyone sees it in the board packet on Thursday. Hopefully, if Mr. Shohan, if not, he'll add it in when he gets it done, but we'll have it for Tuesday. And I'm going to ask the board for a motion to initiate a survey, a technology survey of the community, students, staff, and parents of Beaver County School District. And then I guess the last option we have, so we'll move on from surveys and item number 5, discussion of monthly report format. Anyone have, I mean, I'm fine with what came up, what was brought up today, but if anyone has any feedback on looking at that.
No, I mean, it's pretty, I did notice a little bit of a spike of mics and like cameras not working, but other than that, it seemed pretty straightforward stuff across the board.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so that pretty much covers all of our agenda items. Future topics, we still have the gaming clubs, the esports clubs. So if we could bring, if you could bring that next, I know this survey thing takes a lot of, I tried to help. It is hard to, this is a hard question to start at, and to not be able to explain to people, here's what I'm looking for. So kudos to you, Mr. Shohan, that even though it's 5 questions, that is a lot of work. So at the next meeting, are you going to bring monthly now the repair notes?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll have that. And then if we can do a discussion on esports, we'll have, what will be the date of our next meeting, Robin?
November 10th.
Okay. So we should have hopefully gotten that survey underway so we can at least have an update on that. And then I had this thought when you were talking about the power banks. I would love if you would bring, if some people would send to you, when you're piloting a new technologically based program, whether it's AI or power chargers or Wi-Fi, whatever it is, and you're just starting out, I think those are cool things to talk about in the community. Because when these questions come up and, what is the district doing with AI? I get that, obviously. What is the district doing? These different things. We can say, well, we've got some pilot programs. So could you bring to these meetings sometimes if you have a pilot program or two, just like they do with academics, where you just kind of highlight something so that we have a cool thing to go out and talk to the community about?
Absolutely.
Anybody else have future topics?
Negative.
Display drones.
I'm good.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that's a decent, we'll get this survey thing in November, and that's a decent list of things for you for November, Mr. Shohan. And thanks so much for putting all this survey together. So just
Absolutely.
to recap, we'll send that out. You'll send that out when you get it. Hopefully if you get it by Thursday, that's great. We'll put it in the board packet for next Tuesday. And so board members, especially tech committee, if you have feedback before the survey goes out, before it goes to the board, please reply all so we can kind of incorporate that. Okay. If there is nothing else, I don't think I need a motion I'll just bring it up as part of my report and request approval from the board to do this survey. But I don't think we have any motions we need to vote on today. So if there's nothing else, we can, I guess, adjourn by unanimous consent.
Ma'am.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Don't be-